Frank Barham was a fascinating man. Some would call him a Renaissance man. He was a beloved husband, a University of North Carolina Chapel Hill College basketball player and alumnus, salesman, radio personality, actor, teacher of special needs children, and served as their basketball coach. And finally in life, Frank found his true calling as a songwriter and musician. The chromatic harmonica was his instrument of choice. His musical style was blues, jazz, and Brazilian fusion, the kind of music that would make your feet tap and your spirit soar. He studied and played with many of the masters, perfecting his craft. Frank was the kind of guy that others might call a people person. He was determined and strong-willed. He always displayed a great empathy for others. Even when a car accident cost Frank his ability to walk, he adapted, he overcame. He accepted the challenge and rolled on. He helped others through his music. Ultimately, it was his wish to share his music that led to his desire to help in a more meaningful way. Frank thought that he could make a difference, a real difference to others by giving them greater mobility. His idea was to raise money to buy better wheelchairs, which would allow greater freedom to move about the world and achieve their goals just as he had.
Hi, I'd like to invite you to join me in raising money to buy wheelchairs for people with disabilities who don't have access to one. My name is Frank Barham. I'm a musician, I'm 59 years old, and I've been using a wheelchair for over 34 years now. 2015 is going to mark the 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. To celebrate that, I'd like to raise money to buy wheelchairs for people with disabilities who don't have access to one. So to do that, I've created the Wheel to Live tour. I'm going to be rolling from Atlanta to Savannah in my everyday wheelchair. I'll be rolling 30 miles per day for a total of 302 miles. I'll be stopping to give performances, distribute information about disability resources, and most importantly, raise money to buy wheelchairs. I hope you'll consider joining me in this effort to make a difference in other people's lives by supporting Wheel to Live. Your tax-deductible donation will go a long way to making a tremendous difference in another human being's life. Please help another person have access to the quality equipment that can let them live their life to its fullest by supporting Wheel to Live. Thank you so much for your consideration and your support.
Finding a sponsor in AMS Vans, Frank and his team, Carrie Beth and Margaret, hatched a plan to travel from Atlanta and hand-propel his way all the way to Savannah, some 302 miles away, using safer, lower-speed rural roads, the kind of route where you could meet people and share your story along the way. Frank's personal story was easy to share because everybody likes music and people who create joyous melodies. It was the way he touched people. It made him stand tall in a crowd, even while sitting in his wheelchair. On the day Frank left Atlanta, City Councilman Kwanzaa Hall sent Frank on his way in grand style. He left behind his beloved wife, Adriana, and his faithful companion, Scooter. His journey was scheduled to last 2 weeks, ending with a benefit concert in Savannah to add additional money to his fundraising total. People noticed Frank, and he talked to lots of them while they traveled, and the media noticed too. He was interviewed on TV and newspapers and shook lots of hands along his journey. Carrie Beth and Margaret drove the AMS-supplied van, carefully following behind Frank as he made his way southeast at 30 miles per day. The trio remained on schedule. Frank had trained for this, rolling along, humming a song. Each mile was a victory for others in need of a new set of wheels to make life a little less hard. On the eve of his last day on the road, his hands blistered, his body tired and sore. Frank remained in good spirits, only one more day ahead. In Savannah, he would have a day of rest before his scheduled concert. Entertaining others was his only reward. That night, Frank, Carrie Beth, and Margaret were joined by Savannah friends. Around dinner, Frank shared their adventures so far along the way. He spoke fondly of the people they had met, the lives he had hopefully touched with his story. His cause and his example of devotion to others were inspirational. The next morning was Wednesday, only 30 miles to go. The day started out at a balmy 68 degrees with clear blue skies. The weather report called for clear weather all day, with highs near 91 degrees. It was the perfect day to end his personal odyssey, and it should have been smooth going ahead. Frank took aim with his wheelchair that morning and began his final push towards the finish line, while Carrie Beth and Margaret followed closely behind. Somewhere, much farther behind Frank, Carrie Beth, and Margaret, Kenneth Wayne Richards climbed up into his 18-wheel Mack tractor and tanker filled with his cargo of petroleum products, 80,000 pounds, headed in the same direction as Frank. There were 4 lanes of highway, State Road Highway 21, a pristine highway in perfect condition. There was room for a 24-inch wheelchair hugging the painted white line on the right shoulder, with a small van following in the right lane with its flashers pulsing. For 13 days and 272 miles, they had no problems. Lunch that day, like many days, was something quick on the side of the road, no luxury dinners. These were 3 people on a mission, 30 miles from Victory. Heading southeast toward Savannah, the warmth of the sun shining on his back, Frank pushed on, Carrie Beth and Margaret faithfully following behind. There would be a big celebration tonight. At 4 p.m., for reasons unknown, Kenneth Wayne Richards failed to yield to the slower van in the right lane. He simply did not move over into the empty left lane. The road at this section was clear, level and straight, with the sun behind them, the van clearly visible. Instead, Kenneth Wayne Shepherd plowed into the van at speed approximately 65 miles per hour. It launched it into the grassy median where its twisted and mangled fuel tank had sprayed highly combustible gasoline all over the remains of the van and its occupants. Sparks from the crash ignited the gas. The van exploded in flames and became a rolling fireball as it came to rest. The crash was so forceful that Margaret was trapped inside the van, still alive, screaming through her own agony for Carrie Beth to get out to save herself. Reluctantly, Carrie Beth freed herself from the wreckage while she was on fire, knowing that Margaret would not survive. Margaret's cries and screams of unimaginable pain could still be heard as she fell to the ground beside the van still on fire. Simultaneously, after the van was punted into the median and erupted in flames, Frank, his only protection, that of a lightweight aluminum wheelchair, took the full force of the speeding Mack semi-truck and trailer, all 80,000 pounds of kinetic energy focused on Frank. Frank was killed instantly. His broken body spread all over a once quiet and peaceful back road in South Georgia. His dream to help others now just a gut-wrenching, horrible memory. At home, Adriana and Scooter were waiting by the telephone, expecting an excited Frank to check in and tell her that his journey was over, that she could stop worrying now. Instead, the phone rang, its familiar ring echoing in their home. Scooter barked, and Adriana picked up the telephone, expecting Frank's voice. Instead, it was the coroner of Scriven County, Georgia, giving her an official notification of Frank's death. 30 miles was all that was left. 30 miles seemed so close, and yet it was still so far away. 30 miles was as close as Frank Barham got that day, because Kenneth Wayne Richards used his PTC Mack truck as a killing machine on a quiet, sparsely traveled, peaceful back Georgia road on a clear day in May.